In the town where Siddhartha grew up, he was loved by all for his handsome appearance, quick learning, and wisdom beyond his years. His father envisioned him becoming a great wise man and priest, while his mother admired his strength and respectfulness. Everyone, especially his friend Govinda, cherished Siddhartha for his spirit, fiery thoughts, and high calling. Despite being a source of joy for others, Siddhartha felt a lack of joy within himself. He started to question the teachings of the Brahmins and the rituals he had been following. He felt a restlessness in his soul, a discontent with the offerings and invocations to the gods. He began to suspect that the knowledge imparted by his father and other wise men was not enough to satisfy his innermost self. Siddhartha pondered the nature of the self, the Atman, and the ultimate truth that lay beyond the teachings he had received. He sought a deeper understanding, a way to reach his innermost being and find peace. Despite studying the holy texts and engaging in debates with the wise men, Siddhartha felt a deep thirst that remained unquenched. One day, Siddhartha decided to meditate under the banyan tree with Govinda. As they sat in contemplation, Siddhartha focused on the Om mantra, aiming his soul like an arrow towards the Brahman, the ultimate target. Lost in deep thought, Siddhartha seemed to transcend the physical world and delve into the realms of the spiritual. The arrival of 3 samanas, ascetics on a pilgrimage, sparked something within Siddhartha. These men, with their self-denial and passion for enlightenment, intrigued him. After a period of contemplation, Siddhartha made a decision to join the samanas, to seek a path that would lead him to the ultimate truth he had been yearning for. Siddhartha makes a life-altering decision to leave his father's house and join the ascetics. His friend, Govinda, is shocked and questions if Siddhartha's father would allow such a move. Siddhartha, perceiving Govinda's fear and submission, assures him that he is resolute in his decision. The next day, Siddhartha approaches his father to seek permission to become a samana, expressing his longing to pursue a life of asceticism. His father, a Brahmin, is initially silent, indicating his displeasure at Siddhartha's request. After a long pause, the father finally speaks, expressing his indignation and forbidding Siddhartha from making such a request again. Despite his father's disapproval, Siddhartha stands firm, arms folded, and waits for his father's response. The father, visibly upset, leaves the room, and Siddhartha stands steadfastly, unwavering in his decision. Throughout the night, the father struggles with his emotions, pacing back and forth, unable to sleep. He repeatedly checks on Siddhartha, who remains in the same spot, his determination unwavering. Despite his father's anguish and sadness, Siddhartha remains resolute, causing his father great distress. As dawn approaches, the father confronts Siddhartha, questioning his resolve to wait endlessly. Siddhartha calmly responds that he will stand and wait, even if it means facing exhaustion or death. The father attempts to dissuade Siddhartha, warning him of the consequences of disobeying him. However, Siddhartha remains steadfast, expressing his obedience to his father's wishes. In a poignant moment, the father realizes that his son has already mentally and emotionally moved away from him, choosing his own path. Touching Siddhartha's shoulder, the father gives his blessing for Siddhartha to go into the forest and become a samana. He instructs Siddhartha to find blissfulness and return to teach him, or if disappointed, to come back and make offerings together. Siddhartha, trembling but resolute, bows to his father and proceeds to inform his mother of his decision. As he leaves the town to embark on his new journey, Govinda appears and joins him as a fellow pilgrim. Siddhartha acknowledges Govinda's presence with a smile, signifying a new chapter in their lives. Siddhartha and Govinda join a group of ascetics known as samanas. They offer their companionship and obedience, which is accepted. Siddhartha, determined to find enlightenment, embarks on a journey of self-denial and self-discovery. Siddhartha gives away his garments to a poor Brahmin and adopts a life of simplicity, wearing only a loincloth and a cloak. He practices extreme fasting, eating only once a day and abstaining from cooked food. He pushes himself to the limits, fasting for 15 and then 28 days, which results in a significant physical transformation. His body becomes emaciated, his eyes enlarged, and his appearance rugged. Siddhartha's rejection of worldly pleasures and his intense focus on ascetic practices lead him to a state of detachment and disillusionment with the world around him. Driven by a single-minded goal of emptiness and tranquility, Siddhartha endures extreme physical and mental challenges. He exposes himself to the elements, enduring pain, thirst, and discomfort. Through meditation and self-denial, he seeks to transcend his individual self and attain a state of inner peace. Siddhartha's journey involves exploring different forms of self-denial, including meditation, breath control, and visualization exercises. Despite his dedication to the Samana's teachings, Siddhartha begins to question the efficacy of their methods. He engages in philosophical discussions with Govinda, expressing doubts about the path they are following. Siddhartha reflects on the limitations of self-denial and the cyclical nature of their spiritual practices. He challenges the idea that enlightenment can be achieved through extreme asceticism and renunciation of the self. As Siddhartha and Govinda continue their spiritual practices and engage in acts of self-discipline, Siddhartha becomes increasingly disillusioned with the Samana's teachings. He realizes that true enlightenment cannot be attained through mere physical or mental exercises. Siddhartha's quest for spiritual awakening leads him to question the fundamental beliefs of the Samanas and seek a deeper understanding of the nature of existence. Through his conversations with Govinda and his own introspection, Siddhartha begins to recognize the limitations of the Samanas' approach to spiritual enlightenment. He acknowledges the futility of seeking salvation through external practices and rituals. Siddhartha's journey of self-discovery challenges traditional notions of enlightenment and raises profound questions about the nature of truth and self-realization. As Siddhartha continues to explore different paths to enlightenment, he grapples with the complexities of his own spiritual journey. He confronts the contradictions and limitations of the Samanas' teachings and seeks a more profound and authentic understanding of the self. The story delves into a philosophical conversation between Siddhartha and his friend Govinda. Siddhartha expresses his belief that true knowledge, or Atman, is not something to be learned, but a universal truth present within every living being. He argues that the desire to seek knowledge can be an obstacle to understanding this inherent wisdom. Govinda, on the other hand, is concerned by Siddhartha's views, fearing the implications on the sanctity of prayer, the Brahman caste, and the teachings of the Samanas. The two friends discuss the nature of enlightenment and the purpose of learning, highlighting their differing perspectives on spirituality and wisdom. As the narrative progresses, news reaches them of a man named Gautama, known as the Buddha, who has achieved enlightenment and is spreading his teachings throughout the land. The myth of the Buddha spreads like wildfire, captivating the hearts and minds of many, including Siddhartha and Govinda. The allure of the Buddha's teachings and the promise of enlightenment draw them towards this new spiritual path. Despite their initial reluctance, both Siddhartha and Govinda feel a growing desire to seek out the Buddha and learn from his wisdom. Siddhartha, in particular, reflects on his evolving beliefs and his skepticism towards traditional teachings and practices. The prospect of hearing the Buddha's teachings firsthand excites them, sparking a sense of hope and curiosity about the path ahead. The narrative explores the contrast between the allure of the Buddha's teachings and the skepticism of traditional spiritual practices held by Siddhartha and Govinda. The myth of the Buddha represents a beacon of hope and enlightenment in a world filled with suffering and uncertainty, inspiring the two friends to embark on a new spiritual journey. The story continues in the town of Savatthi, where every child knows of the exalted Buddha and the almsgiving tradition of his disciples. Two young ascetics, Siddhartha and Govinda, arrive in Savatthi seeking the Buddha. They are directed to Jetavana, the grove donated by the rich merchant Anathapindika for the Buddha's stay. As they beg for food in Savatthi, a woman informs them that the Buddha resides in Jetavana. Excited, Govinda asks if she has seen the Buddha, and she confirms that she has witnessed his silent walks through the town. The two Samanas then head towards Jetavana and witness a bustling community of monks in yellow robes preparing for the day. At sunrise, they spot the Buddha walking silently with his alms dish, and Siddhartha immediately recognizes him by his calm and peaceful presence. The Buddha's demeanor and aura of peace make a profound impact on Siddhartha, who had never venerated anyone as much as the Buddha. Throughout the day, the two samanas follow the Buddha, observing his teachings and actions. They witness the Buddha collecting alms, teaching the doctrines of suffering, and accepting new disciples into his community. Govinda decides to join the Buddha's followers, but Siddhartha hesitates, feeling a deep reverence for the Buddha without the need to formally join his teachings. In a moment of realization, Govinda urges Siddhartha to also take refuge in the Buddha's teachings. Siddhartha, touched by his friend's words, acknowledges Govinda's growth and independence. He encourages Govinda to follow his own path and find salvation, expressing his deep bond and respect for his friend. As the day ends, Govinda becomes emotional, realizing that Siddhartha will be leaving him to continue his spiritual journey alone. Siddhartha reassures Govinda of his good wishes and commitment to his own path. Despite Govinda's repeated attempts to understand Siddhartha's reasons for not joining the Buddha's teachings, Siddhartha remains content with his reverence for the Buddha and his own spiritual journey. The next day, as Govinda leaves with the novices to join the Buddha's community, Siddhartha walks through the grove lost in thought. He encounters the Buddha, who grants him permission to speak. Siddhartha, filled with respect and courage, prepares to engage in a conversation with the Exalted One, marking a significant moment in his spiritual quest. Siddhartha expresses his admiration for the Buddha's teachings, particularly the clear connection between causes and effects presented in a perfect chain. He acknowledges the beauty of this unity, but points out a perceived gap in the teachings related to salvation and overcoming the world. Siddhartha questions the introduction of something new and alien in a world that is otherwise depicted as a seamless chain of events. The Buddha listens calmly to Siddhartha's observations and warns him against getting lost in opinions and arguments, emphasizing that his teachings aim at salvation from suffering rather than merely explaining the world. Siddhartha clarifies that his intention is not to argue, but to express his belief that salvation cannot be conveyed through teachings alone. He asserts that enlightenment is a personal experience that cannot be taught or learned from others. Siddhartha decides to continue his travels, not in search of better teachings, but to depart from all teachings and teachers, striving to reach his goal independently. He expresses his respect for the Buddha and his teachings, while maintaining his commitment to finding his own path to salvation or death. Despite his departure, Siddhartha acknowledges the impact of encountering a holy man like the Buddha and cherishes the memory of their meeting. The Buddha questions Siddhartha about the multitude of his disciples who have taken refuge in the teachings and asks whether Siddhartha believes it would be better for them to abandon the teachings and return to worldly desires. Siddhartha affirms his wish for the disciples to stay with the teachings and reach their goal, emphasizing the individual's responsibility to decide their path towards self-salvation. Impressed by Siddhartha's wisdom, the Buddha bids him farewell with a smile, acknowledging his understanding and advising him to be cautious of excessive wisdom. Siddhartha reflects on the Buddha's demeanor and resolves to seek the innermost part of himself, inspired by the Buddha's presence. Siddhartha recognizes the impact of his encounter with the Buddha, feeling both deprived of his friend who has become a disciple and enriched by the newfound understanding of himself. He vows not to be swayed by any teachings other than those that resonate with his innermost being, finding solace in his personal journey towards self-realization. Siddhartha experiences a profound transformation after leaving behind the grove where the Buddha and his friend Govinda stayed. As Siddhartha walks away from this place, he feels like his past self has also stayed behind, marking a significant departure and separation from his former life. This sensation fills him entirely as he contemplates deeply while walking slowly. Siddhartha delves into his thoughts, realizing that he has transitioned from youth to manhood. He acknowledges that the desire for teachers and teachings, which had been a fundamental part of his youth, has now left him. Even the teachings of the Buddha, the most revered and wise teacher, could not resonate with Siddhartha as he had to part ways with him, unable to accept his guidance. As he continues to ponder, Siddhartha questions the essence of his quest for knowledge from external sources. He discovers that what he truly sought to understand was the self, the core of his being that he wished to free himself from and transcend. Despite his efforts, he realizes he could only deceive and flee from his true self, unable to unravel the mystery of his own existence as Siddhartha. These reflections lead Siddhartha to a profound realization. His fear and avoidance of himself have hindered his self-discovery. He recognizes that the elusive self, the very essence of Siddhartha, remains a mystery to him. This lack of self-awareness stems from his reluctance to confront and accept his true nature, leading him to acknowledge the need to embrace and understand himself fully. Awakening from his introspection, Siddhartha experiences a newfound clarity and purpose. He resolves to no longer evade his true self, but to embark on a journey of self-discovery and understanding. He renounces the pursuit of external teachings and vows to learn from his own experiences, seeking to uncover the secrets of Siddhartha within himself. With a renewed perspective, Siddhartha perceives the world around him with fresh eyes, appreciating its beauty and complexity. He realizes that the diversity and richness of existence, once perceived as illusions and deceptions, are now seen as manifestations of the divine within everything. Embracing this revelation, Siddhartha walks with a sense of purpose and determination, ready to begin a new chapter focused on self-exploration and enlightenment. However, as Siddhartha confronts the realization that he is no longer the ascetic or Brahmin he once was, he experiences a moment of solitude and uncertainty. Feeling profoundly alone and disconnected from any social or spiritual identity, Siddhartha grapples with the existential question of where he truly belongs and with whom he can share his life. This moment of isolation serves as a catalyst for Siddhartha's deeper self-realization and the acknowledgement of his individuality and unique path in life. Emerging from this introspective journey, Siddhartha embraces his newfound self with greater clarity and focus, no longer tied to past identities or societal expectations. With a firm resolve and a deeper understanding of his inner self, Siddhartha strides forward, no longer bound by external influences, but guided by his inner truth and the pursuit of self-discovery. As Siddhartha walks along his path, he is captivated by the beauty of the world surrounding him. The sun rising over the mountains, the stars in the night sky, the animals, the trees, the streams, everything seems to come alive in a new light. Previously, Siddhartha had viewed the world with a sense of detachment, seeing it as a mere illusion to be pierced through with his analytical mind. However, now his eyes are opened to the beauty and richness of the visible world, and he no longer seeks to transcend it, but instead embraces it with childlike wonder. He observes the natural world with a keen eye, noticing the intricate details of life around him. From the apes swinging through the trees to the sheep mating in the fields, from the predatory pike hunting in the lake to the fish fleeing in fear, Siddhartha is fully present and attuned to the rhythms of nature. He recognizes that all of this has always existed, but he had never truly seen it before. Now he is fully immersed in the world, a part of it rather than apart from it. Light and shadow dance before his eyes, and the stars and moon illuminate his heart. While on his journey, Siddhartha reflects on his past experiences in the garden Jetavana, where he encountered the teachings of the divine Buddha. He recalls his conversation with Govinda, and the realization that true enlightenment lies not in external teachings, but in the unexpressible and unteachable experience of the self. Siddhartha understands that he must now seek to know his own true self, beyond the confines of thought and rational knowledge. He acknowledges that the essence of his being, his Atman, is eternal and indivisible from the divine Brahman. In a pivotal moment, Siddhartha dreams of Govinda, who transforms into a woman offering him nourishment and sustenance. This dream awakens Siddhartha to his own desires and urges, but he resists the temptation, guided by an inner voice that commands him to seek a higher truth. This experience deepens his understanding of the duality of the self and the importance of listening to the inner voice of wisdom. As Siddhartha continues his journey, he encounters a ferryman who helps him cross the river. The ferryman imparts a valuable lesson to Siddhartha, teaching him that everything in life comes full circle and that acts of kindness and friendship will be repaid in due time. Siddhartha is grateful for the ferryman's guidance and reflects on the simplicity and purity of their interaction. Upon reaching a village, Siddhartha is met with curiosity and caution by the children playing in the street. He encounters a young woman washing clothes by the stream, who engages him in playful banter and attempts to seduce him. Despite feeling desire, Siddhartha resists the woman's advances, guided by his inner voice that cautions him against succumbing to his physical urges. He acknowledges the animalistic nature of desire, but chooses to transcend it in pursuit of a higher truth. Arriving in a bustling city, Siddhartha feels a sense of belonging among the crowds of people. After spending so much time in solitude and nature, he finds comfort in the company of others and the shelter of a roof over his head. As he enters the city, Siddhartha is filled with a sense of anticipation for the experiences and lessons that await him in this new environment. Finding himself drawn into a city after encountering a procession led by a beautiful woman named Kamala, he is captivated by her beauty and decides to approach her, despite realizing that his appearance as a samana, an ascetic and beggar, may not be suitable for the occasion. As Siddhartha explores the city, he befriends a barber's assistant who introduces him to different aspects of urban life, including stories of Vishnu and Lakshmi. This encounter leads Siddhartha to undergo a transformation, symbolized by shaving his beard, cutting his hair, and bathing in the river. When Kamala returns to her grove, Siddhartha seizes the opportunity to approach her and express his admiration for her beauty. He requests her friendship and guidance in learning the art of love, acknowledging his lack of knowledge in this area. Kamala, initially amused by Siddhartha's request, challenges him to acquire fine clothes, shoes, and money before she can consider teaching him. She highlights the importance of consent and mutual respect in love, emphasizing that it cannot be obtained through force or deception. Siddhartha accepts Kamala's conditions and promises to return once he has met her expectations. He then surprises her by composing a poem that captures the essence of their encounter and earns a kiss from Kamala as a reward. The intimate moment between Siddhartha and Kamala deepens Siddhartha's understanding of love and the complexities of human relationships. He is struck by Kamala's wisdom and the depth of knowledge she holds, realizing that there is much he can learn from her. Siddhartha and Kamala engage in a conversation where Siddhartha reveals his abilities in reading, writing, and knowing magic spells, but expresses his disinterest in using them. Kamala is impressed by his skills and informs him that not everyone possesses such abilities. She advises Siddhartha to continue utilizing his talents, suggesting that he will find use for them in the future. During their conversation, a maid interrupts with a message for Kamala. Siddhartha is asked to leave discreetly to avoid being seen by the visitor. The maid provides him with white upper garments, and he is guided to a garden house where he is given the clothes as a gift. Siddhartha silently exits the grove and returns to the city, reflecting on the ease of life compared to his previous struggles as a samana. The following day, Siddhartha returns to Kamala's house, where she informs him that the wealthiest merchant in the city, Kamaswami, is expecting him. She advises Siddhartha to impress Kamaswami to secure a position in his service, emphasizing the need for him to be polite yet assertive. Kamala expresses her desire for Siddhartha to become Kamaswami's equal, rather than serving under him. Siddhartha expresses his gratitude and shares his belief in the power of thinking, waiting, and fasting. He asserts that these qualities have enabled him to progress from a beggar to the potential merchant he aims to become. Kamala acknowledges his growth and questions where he would be without her assistance. Siddhartha asserts his determination to learn from her and achieve his goals, emphasizing his unwavering resolve and trust in his journey. The conversation between Siddhartha and Kamala delves into the idea of personal determination and the power of one's resolve in achieving their goals. Siddhartha's unwavering commitment to his path, coupled with Kamala's guidance and support, highlights the importance of self-belief and perseverance in the pursuit of one's aspirations. As Siddhartha bids farewell to Kamala with a kiss, he expresses his gratitude for her teachings and wishes for continued good fortune. The chapter concludes with Siddhartha's acknowledgement of the role of personal agency and determination in shaping one's destiny, emphasizing the transformative power of self-belief and commitment to one's goals. Siddhartha approaches Kamaswami the merchant, who questions his motives for wanting to serve a merchant despite not being destitute. Siddhartha explains that he voluntarily renounced possessions after living with the Samanas. Kamaswami challenges Siddhartha on how he sustains himself without possessions, to which Siddhartha responds that he can think, wait, and fast, highlighting the benefits of fasting in testing one's patience and resilience. Impressed by Siddhartha's abilities, Kamaswami tasks him with reading and writing, acknowledging his intelligence and patience. Siddhartha becomes a guest in Kamaswami's house, where he eats once a day, abstains from meat and wine, and engages in the merchant's business with detachment. Siddhartha's true interest lies in Kamala, a beautiful and wise courtesan who becomes his lover and teacher in the art of love. Despite participating in Kamaswami's business dealings, Siddhartha maintains a calm and detached demeanor, handling profits and losses with equanimity. He gains a reputation for being successful without being driven by material gains, which puzzles Kamaswami. Siddhartha's travels to purchase rice demonstrate his curiosity and appreciation for human connections, even when faced with setbacks that do not deter his satisfaction. Kamaswami's attempts to involve Siddhartha more intensively in the business or make him worry about financial matters prove futile, as Siddhartha remains unperturbed and continues to follow his own path. Siddhartha's refusal to conform to conventional business worries and his unique approach to life perplex Kamaswami, who fails to understand Siddhartha's contentment and detachment from material concerns. Despite Kamaswami's expectations, Siddhartha's focus on personal growth, relationships, and self-discovery remains unwavering, leading to a profound impact on those around him. Siddhartha realizes that his soul is not aligned with his business pursuits. While he excels in dealing with people and their various endeavors, he recognizes a fundamental separation between himself and others due to his background as a samana. Despite his ability to engage with individuals from all walks of life, he observes them engaging in behaviors that he both loves and despises. Siddhartha perceives people toiling for material gain, seeking fleeting pleasures, and engaging in conflicts that seem trivial to him. He witnesses their suffering and struggles, which appear meaningless in the grand scheme of life. Although Siddhartha participates in the business world, he feels a disconnect from the true essence of life. He experiences a sense of detachment and observes his actions as if they were part of a game. While he finds moments of joy and contentment, he realizes that the true essence of existence eludes him. Deep within him, a quiet voice laments this realization, but he struggles to fully comprehend its significance. Siddhartha acknowledges that his interactions with others and the roles he plays in their lives are superficial, lacking a deeper connection to his inner self. Despite his introspective moments, Siddhartha finds solace in his relationship with Kamala, a courtesan who understands him in ways others do not. Their love affair is passionate and intense, with Siddhartha learning from Kamala and finding a sense of belonging in her presence. He admires her ability to find peace within herself, a quality he strives to achieve. Siddhartha reflects on the nature of people, comparing them to falling leaves swept by the wind or stars following a predetermined path. He recalls a revered figure, Gautama, whose teachings inspired devotion in his followers, but fail to penetrate their inner selves. Kamala recognizes Siddhartha's profound thoughts and compares them to those of a samana, highlighting his spiritual nature. Despite Siddhartha's mastery of physical pleasures and the art of love, Kamala senses his underlying detachment and lack of true affection. Siddhartha acknowledges his likeness to Kamala, both unable to experience genuine love despite their intimate connection. He ponders the possibility that individuals like them may be incapable of love, reserving such emotions for those with a childlike innocence and purity of heart. As their game of love unfolds, Kamala praises Siddhartha's prowess and skill, acknowledging his superior abilities as a lover. She expresses a desire to bear his child in the future, recognizing his strength and dedication. However, she points out Siddhartha's emotional distance, noting his inability to truly love anyone, including herself. Siddhartha concurs, admitting that he may indeed lack the capacity for genuine love, a trait he associates with childlike innocence and simplicity. Despite their physical intimacy and mutual admiration, Siddhartha and Kamala remain emotionally detached, each grappling with their inner struggles and spiritual quests. Siddhartha had spent years immersed in the world of lust, riches, and power, yet always felt detached from it all. Despite his experiences, he still held on to his samana principles of thinking, waiting, and fasting. He had become wealthy, owned a house, had servants, and a garden, but found no true closeness except with Kamala. His initial awakening and intense self-reliance from his youth had gradually faded away, replaced by a quiet memory of a once vibrant inner voice. The teachings learned from Samanas, Gautama, and his father remained within him, but many aspects had been overshadowed by the world and sloth. While his senses had come alive through various experiences like trading, enjoying luxuries, and indulging in pleasures, Siddhartha's soul had succumbed to fatigue, heaviness, and sleep. Despite learning the ways of the world, Siddhartha always felt different and superior, yet slowly adopted some of the childlike fears and behaviors of those around him, leading to a sense of envy. He envied the passion and importance people attached to their lives, the joys and fears they experienced, the constant state of love they lived in. Despite his smart and spiritual appearance, Siddhartha's laughter became scarce, replaced by discontent, ill humor, and a lack of love. As time passed, a veil of tiredness descended upon Siddhartha, growing denser and heavier, marking the aging of his once vibrant life. He had become ensnared by lust, covetousness, sloth, and finally greed, a vice he had previously mocked. Gambling became a way to demonstrate his disdain for wealth, but it soon turned into a dangerous obsession. Siddhartha found joy in the fear that came with high stakes, constantly seeking to renew and intensify that feeling. With each loss, he chased after new riches, becoming more strict and petty in his dealings, dreaming of money and aging rapidly in the process. Siddhartha fled into new games, numbing his mind with sex and wine, only to return to the pursuit of possessions. This cycle left him tired, old, and sick, until a warning dream shook him to his core. After a night with Kamala filled with pleasure and thoughtful conversations about Gautama, Siddhartha realized the close connection between lust and death. Kamala's face revealed a fearful inscription, prompting Siddhartha to see the vanity and fleeting nature of their pleasures. This realization marked a turning point for Siddhartha, signaling the need for a deeper change and a departure from his current path of emptiness and decay. Siddhartha, weary and disillusioned, bid farewell to Kamala, recognizing the signs of aging and weariness on her face as they parted ways. He spent a night immersed in indulgence, seeking solace in dancing girls and wine, trying to convince himself of his superiority over them and his social status, which was no longer true. Despite consuming copious amounts of wine, he found himself unable to sleep, overwhelmed by feelings of despair, disgust, and a longing to rid himself of the meaningless pleasures and habits that had come to define his life. Unable to find peace, Siddhartha finally succumbed to sleep in the early morning hours and had a dream that left him filled with deep sadness and a sense of worthlessness. In his dream, he encountered a small singing bird owned by Kamala, which had fallen silent and lifeless in its cage. Disturbed by the sight, he threw the dead bird away, only to be overwhelmed by a sense of loss and shock, feeling as though he had cast away all value and goodness from his life. Upon waking from the dream, Siddhartha was enveloped in a profound melancholy, feeling hollow and devoid of purpose. He retreated to his pleasure garden, where he contemplated the path his life had taken, reflecting on the few moments of true happiness he had experienced in his youth when praised by the Brahmins and when embarking on his spiritual journey as a samana. However, he realized that these moments of fulfillment were fleeting, and his life had become a monotonous cycle of mundane pleasures and unfulfilled desires. As he sat under a mango tree, Siddhartha grappled with the realization that he had been living a superficial and empty existence, devoid of true meaning or purpose. He questioned the necessity of his possessions, his lifestyle, and his relationships, feeling a profound sense of detachment and disillusionment. Recognizing that the game of worldly pursuits and desires, known as samsara, held no lasting satisfaction or fulfillment, Siddhartha decided that he could no longer participate in it. With a newfound clarity and resolve, Siddhartha renounced his material possessions, bid farewell to his garden, and left the city under the cover of night, never to return. While Kamaswami, his business associate, searched for him, Kamala, sensing his departure, accepted his absence with a sense of resignation and understanding. She released a singing bird from its cage, watching it fly away into the night, symbolizing Siddhartha's liberation and departure from her life. Alone and determined to seek a higher truth, Siddhartha embarked on a new journey, leaving behind his past and embracing a life of uncertainty and spiritual exploration. Kamala, pregnant with his child, retreated from the world, finding solace in solitude and introspection. The chapter concludes with the symbolic release of the bird, signifying Siddhartha's liberation from worldly attachments and his quest for ultimate truth and enlightenment. Feeling disillusioned with his current life, Siddhartha walks through the forest, realizing that he can never go back to the way things were. He is overwhelmed with a deep sense of disgust and emptiness, having lived a life filled with experiences that have brought him nothing but misery and death. Siddhartha wishes for nothing but to be rid of himself completely, to be dead and at rest. He desires a lightning bolt to strike him down, a tiger to devour him, or a poison to numb his senses and bring him eternal sleep. As he reaches the large river in the forest, Siddhartha contemplates the futility of continuing on his journey. He is exhausted, hungry, and devoid of any purpose or goal. Standing at the riverbank, he longs to let go and drown in the waters, feeling a terrifying emptiness reflected back at him. He is at the end of his rope, wishing to annihilate himself and escape the miserable existence he has created. Siddhartha leans against a coconut tree, contemplating suicide, feeling like a failure and a disgrace. He wishes to be devoured by animals or demons, to be rid of his rotten body and soul. In a moment of despair, he spits at his reflection in the water, ready to embrace death. However, as he is on the brink of ending his life, a distant memory stirs within Siddhartha. The word Om, the sacred syllable representing perfection and completion in Brahman prayers, resurfaces in his consciousness. This divine sound awakens Siddhartha from his self-destructive trance, causing him to realize the foolishness of his actions. Shocked by his own desperation, Siddhartha recognizes the depth of his misery and error. He reflects on the teachings of Brahman, the indestructibility of life, and the divine aspects he had forgotten. This moment of awakening brings clarity and a renewed sense of purpose to Siddhartha. Collapsing by the coconut tree, Siddhartha falls into a deep sleep without dreams, feeling refreshed and rejuvenated upon waking. He contemplates the possibility of rebirth, feeling like a new man with a restored sense of curiosity and joy. Upon waking, Siddhartha is surprised to see an unknown monk sitting opposite him. The monk Govinda, a friend from his youth, had been waiting for him to wake up, having been on a pilgrimage with fellow followers of Buddha when he found Siddhartha asleep by the river. Govinda does not initially recognize Siddhartha, who explains his recent journey to self-discovery and transformation. As the two friends reconnect, Govinda is overjoyed to see Siddhartha again. They reminisce about their past experiences together, with Siddhartha revealing his newfound sense of purpose and contentment. Despite their different paths, Siddhartha and Govinda share a moment of mutual understanding and respect. Siddhartha acknowledges that although he may not look like a typical pilgrim, he is indeed on a spiritual journey of his own. He and Govinda part ways, each continuing on their respective paths, grateful for the chance to reconnect and share in the journey of self-discovery. Govinda is surprised by Siddhartha's current appearance as a pilgrim. Siddhartha explains that he is on a pilgrimage, shedding light on the impermanence of worldly appearances and possessions. He reflects on his past as a rich man and how he has now let go of his riches, symbolizing the transient nature of material wealth. As Siddhartha contemplates his current state, he realizes that he is starting anew, unsure of what the future holds. He reflects on the various stages of his life, from his ascetic practices to his pursuit of worldly pleasures, and acknowledges the cyclical nature of his journey. Despite the challenges and mistakes he has faced, Siddhartha finds a sense of joy and freedom in embracing his current state of uncertainty and simplicity. Hunger pains Siddhartha, reminding him of his human needs and vulnerabilities. He recalls his past feats of fasting, waiting, and thinking, which he now feels detached from. Siddhartha muses on the irony of his life's path, from seeking enlightenment to indulging in sensory pleasures, and finally arriving at a childlike state of wonder and acceptance. Siddhartha's introspection leads him to a profound realization that his past experiences, no matter how divergent, have led him to this moment of clarity and liberation. He acknowledges the role of despair and suffering in shaping his understanding of self and the world. Through moments of near suicide and deep discontent, Siddhartha rediscovers the essence of his being and the importance of self-acceptance. The narrative delves into Siddhartha's internal dialogue, where he confronts his past struggles and embraces his present state of being. He finds solace in the simplicity of existence and the freedom that comes from shedding the burdens of his ego. As Siddhartha revels in the newfound joy and peace within himself, he recognizes the significance of his evolving perspectives and the wisdom gained through his trials. He emerges from the depths of despair with a renewed sense of purpose and a deep appreciation for life's complexities. Siddhartha reflects on his past filled with arrogance and spiritual self-righteousness. He realizes that by retreating into a life of priesthood and spiritual superiority, he had only nurtured his ego. Despite his attempts to achieve salvation through fasting and penance, he acknowledges that no external teacher could have saved him. Understanding the necessity to shed his old self, he decides to venture out into the world to experience lust, power, relationships, and material wealth. Siddhartha believes that he must immerse himself in the mundane aspects of life, such as becoming a merchant, gambling, indulging in pleasures, and accumulating wealth, in order to extinguish the priestly and ascetic qualities within him. He accepts the need to endure these challenging and unsavory experiences, including feelings of disgust, meaningless teachings, and a sense of wasted life, until he reaches the point of bitter despair. Through this process, the old Siddhartha, characterized by lust and greed, slowly dies within him. As he awakens to a new perspective, Siddhartha acknowledges his mortality and the impermanence of physical form. Despite this awareness, he finds joy in the present moment, embracing his newfound sense of self as a childlike and youthful being. Siddhartha engages in introspection, smiling at the sounds of his body and appreciating the simple pleasures around him, such as the buzzing of a bee. He is captivated by the sight of the rushing river, realizing a profound connection to it that he had not experienced before. The river symbolizes a source of wisdom and guidance, offering him insights and lessons that are yet to be fully revealed. While Siddhartha had initially planned to end his life in the river, he discovers a deep love and affinity for its flowing waters. Resolved to stay by the river's side, he commits to embracing this newfound connection and the mysteries it holds for him in the future. Siddhartha, feeling a deep connection to the river and its eternal flow, decides that this is the place he wants to stay. He reflects on his previous encounter with the ferryman and decides to seek him out. As he gazes into the water, he sees its many secrets and feels a strong love for it, believing that understanding the river's ways will lead to understanding other secrets of life. Hungry and in a daze, Siddhartha walks along the riverbank and encounters the same ferryman who had guided him across the river in the past. The ferryman, named Vasudeva, recognizes Siddhartha and agrees to ferry him across the river. Siddhartha offers his fine clothes to the ferryman in exchange for the ride, revealing that he has no money to pay. He expresses his desire to stay with Vasudeva and learn the ways of the river. As they cross the river, Siddhartha and Vasudeva engage in conversation. Siddhartha shares his past as a samana and his recent struggles, including his deep connection to the river and his search for enlightenment. Vasudeva listens intently, demonstrating a rare ability to truly hear Siddhartha's words without judgment or interruption. After reaching the other side of the river, Siddhartha accepts Vasudeva's invitation to stay with him. Vasudeva explains that he has lived alone since his wife passed away and offers Siddhartha a place in his hut. Siddhartha expresses his gratitude for Vasudeva's attentive listening and acknowledges the importance of truly hearing others. Vasudeva teaches Siddhartha to listen, emphasizing the wisdom of the river and the importance of paying attention to its lessons. Siddhartha learns to operate the boat and helps Vasudeva with various tasks, finding joy in the simplicity of their shared life. More than anything, Siddhartha learns from the river itself, absorbing its teachings and becoming attuned to the present moment. Through his time with Vasudeva and the river, Siddhartha comes to understand the timeless nature of existence. Vasudeva confirms that the river is everywhere at once, existing only in the present moment without the shadows of the past or future. Siddhartha reflects on the flow of his own life, realizing that the boy, man, and old man Siddhartha are all connected by a continuous river of existence. Siddhartha and Vasudeva continue to live and work together, their bond deepening through shared experiences and quiet understanding. Siddhartha learns to appreciate the simplicity of life and the wisdom of the river, finding peace in the eternal flow of time and existence. Siddhartha has reached a profound understanding of time, realizing that past and future are illusions, and that everything exists in the present moment. This realization fills him with ecstasy and delight, as he grasps the concept that overcoming time is overcoming suffering. Siddhartha shares his insights with Vasudeva, the wise ferryman who has been guiding him on his spiritual path. Vasudeva smiles in confirmation of Siddhartha's revelations, showing his silent approval and understanding. The two men bond over their shared wisdom, spending their days by the river, listening to its many voices and contemplating the eternal nature of life. The river becomes a symbol of life itself, encompassing the voices of all living creatures. Siddhartha and Vasudeva discuss the river's multitude of voices, leading to a moment of profound clarity when Vasudeva whispers the holy Om into Siddhartha's ear. This shared experience deepens their connection, making their smiles almost indistinguishable as they bask in the bliss of understanding. Their harmonious existence by the river begins to draw the attention of other travelers and pilgrims. Many seek solace and guidance from the two wise men, mistaking them for sorcerers or holy beings. The aura of peace and wisdom surrounding Siddhartha and Vasudeva touches those who encounter them, leading to moments of introspection and revelation for the visitors. As time passes, news of the Buddha's impending death spreads, drawing crowds of pilgrims seeking to witness his passing. Among them is Kamala, Siddhartha's former lover, who has renounced her courtesan life and embraced a spiritual path. She embarks on a pilgrimage with her son, but tragedy strikes when she is bitten by a snake. In her moment of distress, Siddhartha recognizes her, and the realization that the boy is his own son stirs emotions in him. Siddhartha tends to Kamala, who is on the brink of death from the snake bite, and her recognition of him brings back memories of their past. Despite the pain and suffering, Kamala smiles at Siddhartha, acknowledging his transformation over the years. She also recognizes their son, and in her delirium, she reflects on their shared past and the changes time has wrought upon them. As Kamala's condition worsens, Siddhartha comforts her and cares for their son. Through a Brahmin prayer, he soothes the boy and brings him peace, reflecting on his own childhood and the passage of time. Kamala's final moments draw near, and Siddhartha quietly accepts the inevitability of her death, sharing a poignant moment with Vasudeva by the fire. Kamala passes away, and Siddhartha's journey towards enlightenment takes another profound turn. As he navigates the complexities of life, death, and love, he continues to seek truth and understanding in the ever-flowing river of existence. The bond between Siddhartha and Vasudeva deepens, transcending words and sorrows as they both embrace the eternal cycle of life and death. The story takes a poignant turn as Siddhartha reunites with Kamala, the woman from his past. Their meeting is filled with a sense of peace and acceptance, as they both acknowledge the changes that have taken place within them. Kamala, noticing the transformation in Siddhartha's eyes, questions whether he has found peace. Siddhartha, smiling, confirms her observation, and in a moment of profound connection, Kamala also feels that she too will find peace. As they share a silent understanding, Kamala reminisces about her intention to seek out Gautama, the perfected one, to find peace. Yet, in Siddhartha, she sees the embodiment of that peace, realizing that she has found what she was seeking. Unable to articulate her thoughts, Kamala gazes at Siddhartha as he witnesses the life leaving her eyes. In a tender gesture, Siddhartha gently closes her eyelids, honoring her in her final moments. Siddhartha sits with Kamala's lifeless body, reflecting on her aged features and the passage of time. He recalls the vibrant youthfulness they both once possessed, contrasting it with the inevitability of aging and death. In this contemplative state, Siddhartha experiences a profound sense of eternity, understanding the indestructibility of life and the eternal nature of every moment. After Kamala's passing, Siddhartha finds solace in the wisdom and presence of Vasudeva. The two men share a silent companionship, with Vasudeva offering comfort and understanding to Siddhartha. Despite the weight of grief and loss, Siddhartha finds himself at peace, deeply touched by the interconnectedness of all life. As the night progresses, Siddhartha sits outside, listening to the soothing sounds of the river. The river, a symbol of constant change and continuity, fills Siddhartha with a sense of unity and healing. Despite the turmoil and trials he has faced, Siddhartha's heart remains untouched by sadness, as he recognizes the richness and happiness that have come from his experiences. The following morning, Vasudeva acknowledges Siddhartha's inner peace and resilience, noting his unwavering spirit in the face of suffering. Siddhartha, filled with gratitude and contentment, reflects on the blessings in his life, including his newfound connection with his son. Together, Siddhartha and Vasudeva prepare for the funeral rites of Kamala, honoring her memory with reverence and compassion. As they build Kamala's funeral pyre on the same hill where Vasudeva's wife was cremated, Siddhartha embraces the cycle of life and death. Through these rituals, Siddhartha finds a sense of closure and acceptance, recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings and the eternal nature of existence. We are introduced to Siddhartha's son, who is characterized as timid and weeping after the funeral of his mother. Siddhartha, trying to embrace the role of a father to the boy, welcomes him into Vasudeva's hut, but realizes that the boy is distant and resistant. Siddhartha observes that his son is struggling with his new surroundings, having grown up pampered and accustomed to a life of luxury and comfort. Despite his efforts to win over his son with patience and kindness, Siddhartha begins to realize that the boy's presence brings him suffering and worry instead of happiness. However, Siddhartha's love for his son outweighs the challenges, and he continues to care for the boy, even though he struggles to connect with him. As time passes, the boy's behavior becomes more defiant and disrespectful, causing tension between him and Siddhartha. Vasudeva, the wise ferryman, notices the strain between father and son and offers Siddhartha guidance. He suggests that perhaps the boy is not suited for the simple life in the hut and needs to be exposed to a different environment to thrive. Vasudeva's words prompt Siddhartha to question his approach to parenting and whether he is truly helping his son by keeping him in the hut. He struggles with the idea of letting his son go and fears that the boy may lose himself to worldly pleasures and distractions if exposed to the city life. The conversation with Vasudeva resonates with Siddhartha, who reflects on his own journey and the lessons he has learned along the way. He grapples with the idea of letting go of his son, knowing that he cannot protect him from the trials and tribulations of life. Despite Vasudeva's advice, Siddhartha finds it difficult to heed his friend's words, as his love for his son is too strong. He continues to endure the challenges and frustrations that come with trying to connect with the boy, hoping that one day he will understand and reciprocate his love. The chapter ends with Siddhartha reflecting on his newfound love for his son, acknowledging the complexities and sacrifices that come with it. He comes to terms with the fact that love, even when fraught with challenges, is a necessary part of life and must be embraced, despite the pain and suffering that may come with it. As Siddhartha navigates the complexities of fatherhood and love, he grapples with the idea of letting go and allowing his son to find his own path in life. The story dives deeper into the relationship between Siddhartha and his son. The chapter starts with a moment of defiance from the young boy towards his father. Frustrated and angry, the boy openly rebels against his father, refusing to follow his instructions to gather brushwood. In a powerful outburst, he expresses his hatred and contempt towards his father, proclaiming his desire to become a highway robber and murderer rather than be like him. The boy eventually runs away, leaving Siddhartha in a state of grief and concern. Feeling the weight of his emotions, Siddhartha decides to follow his son, fearing for the child's safety in the forest. With the help of Vasudeva, they build a raft to cross the water and track the boy down. Despite Vasudeva's advice to let the boy find his own way, Siddhartha is driven by his paternal instincts to search for him. As they journey, Siddhartha reflects on the pain and suffering he is experiencing, realizing the futility of his pursuit but unable to quell his desire to see his son once more. Upon reaching the city, Siddhartha is flooded with memories of his past, particularly his time with Kamala and his former life of indulgence and desire. The recollection of his transformation from a young Samana to a worldly man brings a mix of emotions, from pride to disgust. Despite the nostalgia, Siddhartha understands that his current desire to find his son is misguided, and he must let go of his attachment. Sitting by the gate of the pleasure garden, Siddhartha experiences a deep sense of emptiness and sadness. He realizes that his journey to find his son was driven by a need to cling to the past and is ultimately futile. In this moment of introspection, he contemplates the nature of his suffering and the importance of patience and listening. As he sits in silence, waiting for guidance, he receives a gesture of kindness from the monks in the garden, who offer him bananas. Upon the arrival of Vasudeva, Siddhartha is brought back to the present moment and shares a silent exchange with his friend. They return home without speaking of the boy's departure or the pain Siddhartha is feeling. As Siddhartha lies down to rest, he reflects on the events of the day and finds solace in the quiet companionship of Vasudeva. The chapter ends with Siddhartha falling asleep, letting go of his worries and finding peace in the stillness of the night. Siddhartha is in a state of deep emotional turmoil and longing. He struggles with the feeling of envy towards others who have what he desires most, children and familial love. Siddhartha's encounters with various individuals during his time as a ferryman across the river lead him to a new perspective on life and humanity. Siddhartha's interactions with ordinary people, including businessmen, warriors, and women, bring about a shift in his perception. He begins to see them not as separate entities, but as individuals driven by their own urges and desires. Through these encounters, Siddhartha develops a sense of empathy and understanding towards the struggles and motivations of these people. He learns to appreciate their simple desires and actions, recognizing the inherent value in their pursuit of happiness and fulfillment. Despite his near perfection and enlightenment, Siddhartha finds himself drawn to the humanity and vulnerability of those around him. He starts to view their actions and passions as manifestations of the eternal life force that unites all living beings. Siddhartha acknowledges the strength and tenacity of ordinary people, admiring their unwavering commitment to their desires and goals. He comes to understand that their seemingly trivial aspirations hold significance in the grand tapestry of existence. As Siddhartha grapples with his own emotional wounds and desires, he experiences a profound realization about the nature of wisdom. He discovers that true wisdom lies not in intellectual knowledge, but in the ability to embrace the oneness of all life. Through his interactions with Vasudeva, the wise ferryman, Siddhartha learns to cultivate a sense of harmony and unity with the world around him. He sees in Vasudeva's simple and serene demeanor a reflection of the eternal perfection of existence. Despite his growing awareness and spiritual insights, Siddhartha continues to be haunted by his past and his unfulfilled desires, particularly his longing for his son. The wound of separation and longing burns within him, driving him to seek closure and resolution. Siddhartha's inner turmoil is mirrored in his external journey, as he contemplates returning to the city in search of his son. During a moment of intense emotional upheaval, Siddhartha is struck by a profound realization while gazing into the river. He sees his own reflection mirrored in the water, which triggers memories of his past and his relationships with his father and son. The river, a symbol of life and eternity, laughs at Siddhartha's inner turmoil and existential struggles, prompting him to confront his inner demons and desires. As Siddhartha opens up to Vasudeva about his innermost thoughts and feelings, he experiences a deep sense of release and catharsis. Through his heartfelt confession and vulnerability, Siddhartha finds solace and understanding in the compassionate presence of Vasudeva. Their profound connection transcends human interaction. As Siddhartha perceives Vasudeva as a divine figure, embodying the eternal wisdom and oneness of existence. In the final moments of this part of the story, Siddhartha is enveloped in a sense of peace and acceptance as he listens to the river sing. The merging of past memories and present experiences in the flowing waters of the river symbolizes the interconnectedness of all life. Siddhartha gains a deeper understanding of the cyclical nature of existence and the universal yearning for fulfillment and enlightenment. Through his interactions with Vasudeva and his contemplation of life's mysteries, Siddhartha undergoes a profound transformation. He learns to embrace the impermanence of life and the interconnectedness of all living beings. Siddhartha's journey towards self-discovery and enlightenment is marked by moments of introspection, vulnerability, and spiritual awakening, paving the way for his continued quest for truth and inner peace. Siddhartha finds himself in a state of deep contemplation and listening by the river. He becomes wholly absorbed in the myriad of voices he hears, both joyous and sorrowful, merging and intertwining into a single entity. Siddhartha realizes that all these voices, representing various emotions and experiences, together form the essence of the world and life itself. He perceives the interconnectedness of all things, the unity in diversity, and the harmony in chaos. As Siddhartha listens attentively to the river, he transcends the individual voices and experiences the oneness of all existence. The cacophony of the thousand voices coalesces into a singular word, Om, symbolizing perfection and unity. Vasudeva, Siddhartha's wise companion, subtly prompts him to recognize this unity and perfection in the world around him. With Vasudeva's guidance and the profound realization of the interconnectedness of all things, Siddhartha undergoes a profound transformation. He stops resisting his fate, ceases his suffering, and embraces a deep understanding of the flow of life. Siddhartha's face reflects a newfound serenity and acceptance, embodying a knowledge that aligns with the natural course of events and the interconnectedness of all beings. Vasudeva, sensing Siddhartha's inner transformation, recognizes that his time as the ferryman has come to an end. He bids farewell to both Siddhartha and the river, signifying his readiness to embark on a new journey into the forests and the oneness of existence. Siddhartha watches Vasudeva depart with a sense of deep joy and reverence, observing the radiance and peace that emanate from his departing figure. As Vasudeva leaves, Siddhartha witnesses his friend's departure with a profound sense of peace and understanding. He sees Vasudeva's steps filled with tranquility, his head shining with light, and his body exuding a sense of luminosity. This moment marks a significant juncture in Siddhartha's spiritual journey, as he internalizes the teachings and experiences shared with Vasudeva, and prepares to venture into the depths of the forests in search of further enlightenment and unity with the cosmos. Govinda, a monk, spends his time resting between pilgrimages at a pleasure grove donated by the courtesan Kamala to the followers of Gautama. He hears of an old ferryman, considered wise by many, living a day's journey away by the river. Curious and restless, Govinda decides to visit the ferryman on his way back. Upon reaching the river, Govinda asks the old ferryman, Siddhartha, to ferry him across. As they arrive on the other side, Govinda questions Siddhartha's own search for the right path. Siddhartha, with a smile in his old eyes, challenges Govinda's notion of searching at an old age, suggesting that true finding requires being free and open without a specific goal in mind. They reminisce about an encounter long ago when Siddhartha was asleep by the river, and Govinda failed to recognize him. Astonished, Govinda greets Siddhartha warmly, acknowledging his transformation into a ferryman. Siddhartha welcomes Govinda to spend the night in his hut, where they engage in deep conversations about life. The following morning, as they prepare to continue their respective journeys, Govinda asks Siddhartha about his teachings or beliefs that guide his life and actions. Siddhartha reflects on his past distrust of teachers and teachings, despite learning from various individuals, including a courtesan, a merchant, and a follower of Buddha. Most significantly, he mentions learning from the river and his predecessor, the ferryman Vasudeva, who embodied simplicity and wisdom. Govinda persists in questioning Siddhartha about his personal insights and philosophies, seeking guidance. Siddhartha shares his belief that wisdom cannot be taught but must be lived and experienced. He emphasizes the idea that truth is multifaceted and that all opposites coexist within individuals and the world. Siddhartha challenges the notion of time and linear progression, suggesting that the divine forgiveness and potential for enlightenment exist within every being. Through a metaphor involving a stone, Siddhartha illustrates his philosophy that everything in the world is interconnected and holds intrinsic value. He emphasizes the importance of acceptance, love, and being present in the moment. Siddhartha's profound insights and unconventional beliefs leave Govinda both intrigued and contemplative as they part ways, each continuing on their unique journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. As Govinda reflects on his encounter with Siddhartha, he is left with a newfound perspective on life, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all beings. The teachings of the ferrymen challenge his preconceived notions and inspire him to embrace the complexities of existence with an open heart and mind. Siddhartha and Govinda engage in a deep conversation about the nature of reality, love, and enlightenment. Siddhartha expresses his love and connection to the world around him, finding beauty and significance in even the smallest of things like stones, trees, and rivers. He emphasizes the importance of love over teachings and words, believing that true understanding comes from a place of love and admiration for all beings. Govinda, on the other hand, struggles to grasp Siddhartha's unconventional thoughts and beliefs. He questions the reality of the physical world, wondering if it is all just an illusion created by Maya. Siddhartha, unfazed by these doubts, continues to advocate for the power of love and connection to the world as a path to enlightenment. The two men discuss the teachings of the Exalted One, Gautama, and Siddhartha's own views on love and existence. While Govinda finds Siddhartha's teachings strange and contradictory to traditional beliefs, he cannot deny the purity and holiness he sees in Siddhartha's actions and demeanor. As the conversation comes to a close, Siddhartha offers Govinda a final message of wisdom. He asks Govinda to bend down and kiss his forehead, triggering a profound experience for Govinda. In that moment, Govinda is overcome by a vision of countless faces and forms, all merging and transforming into one another, all part of the eternal cycle of birth and death. Through this vision, Govinda gains a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things and the transient nature of existence. The contrast between conventional teachings and Siddhartha's unorthodox beliefs, emphasizing the power of love, connection, and acceptance in the journey towards enlightenment, are highlighted. Siddhartha's teachings challenge traditional notions of reality and enlightenment, inviting readers to explore the deeper mysteries of existence and the interconnectedness of all life. Govinda, deeply moved by the profound experience and transformation he witnessed in Siddhartha, stands over Siddhartha's serene and unchanged face. He is unsure of the passage of time, feeling as if he has been touched by a divine arrow, an injury that tastes sweet, leaving him enchanted and merged with his innermost self. Govinda is in a state of awe, unsure of the reality of Siddhartha, himself, Gautama, or any individual existence. He is lost in a moment where all distinctions blur, and he is unable to differentiate between the various aspects of life. As Govinda gazes at Siddhartha's face, which remains serene and unaltered after the profound experience they shared, he is filled with a mix of emotions. Tears stream down his weathered face, a physical manifestation of the intense feelings of love, reverence, and veneration that overwhelm his heart. The love he feels is intimate and profound, igniting a fire within him as he kneels in deep respect before Siddhartha. Bowing deeply and humbly, Govinda touches the ground before Siddhartha, who sits motionless, his smile reminiscent of all that Govinda has cherished and held sacred throughout his life. The smile on Siddhartha's face evokes memories of everything that has been precious and meaningful to Govinda. It is a smile that speaks volumes, conveying a sense of benevolence and perhaps even a hint of mockery, mirroring the enigmatic nature of Siddhartha's being. In this moment of profound connection and reverence, Govinda finds himself humbled before Siddhartha, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion and the transformative power of the experience they have shared. Siddhartha's presence and his serene smile serve as a reminder of the beauty and sanctity that Govinda has always sought in his life. The encounter leaves Govinda deeply moved and filled with a sense of awe and gratitude for the wisdom and enlightenment that Siddhartha embodies. As Govinda reflects on the significance of this encounter, he is filled with a sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that he has been touched by something truly divine. The experience leaves an indelible mark on his soul, transforming his perception of the world and his understanding of the spiritual journey. In Siddhartha, Govinda finds not only a teacher and a guide, but also a mirror reflecting the deepest truths of his own being. Through this encounter with Siddhartha, Govinda undergoes a profound inner transformation, realizing the interconnectedness of all things and the eternal nature of the soul. The experience serves as a catalyst for Govinda's own spiritual awakening, leading him on a path of self-discovery and enlightenment. In Siddhartha, Govinda finds not only a source of wisdom and guidance, but also a mirror reflecting the deepest truths of his own being. As the book concludes, Govinda is left in a state of profound reverence and gratitude, humbled by the depth of wisdom and enlightenment he has encountered in Siddhartha. The experience leaves an indelible mark on his soul, inspiring him to embark on his own spiritual journey and seek the truth that lies within. Through his encounter with Siddhartha, Govinda discovers the transformative power of love, compassion, and self-discovery, setting him on a path of spiritual growth and enlightenment.